guys, welcome to chapter 5 of Samuel Huntington's Clash of Civilizations. The chapter title for today is Economics, Demography, and the Challenge of Civilizations. So, let's get straight into it. Huntington begins by telling us that while the return to the sacred is a global phenomenon, it has found its most powerful and assertive voice in two specific areas: Asia and Islam. These are the dynamic civilizations of the late 20th century. Think about the other civilizations for a moment: the Hindu, the Orthodox, the Latin American, the African. Huntington knows that by the mid-1990s, these cultures were affirming their identity, but they were hesitant. They weren't yet ready to proclaim their superiority to the West. But Asia and Islam, they stand alone. They are confident. They are talking back. They are driven by two very different engines. Asian assertiveness is rooted in economic growth. Muslim assertiveness is rooted in social mobilization and population growth. Then Huntington goes to the Asian side. He takes us through the so-called Asian miracle, which began with Japan in the 1950s, the Great Exception it was known as. For decades, the West thought Japan was a fluke, a non-Western country that just happened to get it right. But then the process spread like a fire jumping from one branch to another. It hit the four tigers. Number 1, Hong Kong. Number 2, Taiwan. Number 3, South Korea. And number 4, Singapore. Then it moved to China, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and now it's taken a hold in India and Vietnam, at the time of writing. So Huntington quotes Kishore Mahbubani. It took Britain and the United States over 50 years to double their per capita output. Japan did it in 33 years. South Korea did it in 11. China did it in 10. By 2020, which actually already happened, Asian societies were predicted to account for over 40% of the global economic product. This isn't just about money, it's about the S-curve of power. A slow start, a rapid acceleration, and a leveling off. The West is leveling off. Asia is in the vertical climb. Huntington reminds us as a basic human truth. Wealth is assumed to be proof of virtue. As East Asians became more successful, they stopped looking at American models with awe. They began to emphasize the superiority of their own values. They started to trumpet their way of life. Ambassador Tommy called it a cultural renaissance. Asians no longer regard everything Western as the best. This shift is most visible in the two giants, Japan and China. Japan, after its defeat in 1945, underwent total cultural discombobulation. They threw everything away and tried to be like the Americans. But by the 1980s, the Nihon Jinron, which is known as the theory of Japaneseness, returned. They realized that being Western isn't magically wonderful. They began a policy of distancing from America and engaging Asia. China, meanwhile, rejected both the Western liberal and Soviet Marxist model. They chose a new version of Tiyong, capitalism and the world economy on one hand, and traditional Chinese culture and authoritarianism on the other. They replaced revolutionary legitimacy with performative legitimacy. Huntington then goes through Singapore. We must listen to the voice of Lee Kuan Yew. Lee, an universalistic. They believe their values are for everyone. However, weak societies are particularistic. As Asia grows powerful, it's becoming universalistic. I just can't say it properly. Prime Minister Mahathir told the Europeans in 1996, Asian values are universal values. European values are European values. It is a total reversal of the 19th century mindset. Then Huntington goes over the Islamic Resurgence, the other challenger. He insists that resurgence should be capitalized, like the Reformation. It is an effect affecting 1/5 of humanity. If Asia's challenge is based on money and the wallet, so-called, Islam's challenge is about the soul and the cradle. It's not just fundamentalism, that is only the political tip of the iceberg. The resurgence is a massive mainstream cultural movement. It is an effort by Muslims to find the solution not in Western ideologies but in Islam. A top Saudi official said in 1994, foreign imports are nice as shiny things, but intangible social institutions from elsewhere can be deadly. Ask the Shah of Iran. The resurgence has touched every Muslim society. In 1995, almost every Muslim country was more Islamist than it had been 15 years prior. In many Muslim countries, the governments are bunker regimes, well, at the time at least, repressive, corrupt, and divorced from their people. Because secular civil society is often crushed by these regimes, the only place left for people to organize is the mosque. Islamist groups have built an incredible infrastructure. In Egypt, after the 1992 earthquake, Islamic organizations were on the streets with food and blanket within hours, while the government lagged behind. In Jordan, the Muslim Brotherhood operates hospitals and schools. In Indonesia, the Muhammadiyah has millions of members and provides cradle-to-grave services. These aren't Asian conservatives or illiterate peasants. Huntington points to a study of Egyptian Islamist leaders. They are young, they are university students, they are specialists in demanding fields like medicine and engineering. They are the Scuppies, saffron-clad yuppies, or the Muslims' equivalents. Religion is the vitamin of the week for the urban migrants, and it is the claim to respect for the new middle class. Huntington then introduces a cold demographic reality, the youth bulge. Historically, when you have a large cohort of people aged 15 to 24, you have instability, protest, and revolution. The Protestant Reformation was a youth movement. The French Revolution was a youth movement, and the 1960s in the West were a youth movement. In the 1970s and 80s, the proportion of youth in major Muslim countries began to exceed 20%. This demographic bulge provided the recruits for Islamist organizations. It is not a coincidence that the Iranian Revolution happened in 1979, just as their youth bulge hit its peak, or that the Islamist fizz won in Algeria in the early 90s as their bulge peaked. Larger populations need more resources. They tend to push it upwards. This growth is a major factor in the conflicts along the borders of the Islamist world. It promotes migration to the West, making immigration a central burning issue. When rapidly growing people of one culture live next to a stagnant group of people of another, the pressure for adjustment becomes violent. Then Huntington whispers